It's certainly been a minute since I've had an opportunity to test a Polaris ATV. We spend so much time talking about side-by-sides that sometimes you can even forget there is a full lineup of ATVs available from Polaris. The top of the line model is the one I have right here, the Sportsman XP 1000, and this one is called the Ultimate Trail Edition. So what makes an Ultimate Trail Edition? First of all, it has the front and rear bumpers that are standard, come on from the factory. These are not sort of typical bumpers that you'd find on previous Sportsman XP 1000s. You get the 3,500 pound HD Polaris winch with synthetic cable, and you get their new 3-setting power steering. It's a new feature for Polaris, and I think it's a really great idea. The heart of the Sportsman 1000 XP is this ProStar 952cc single overhead cam twin cylinder motor that makes a 90 horsepower is what Polaris claims. This engine is an absolute powerhouse. It's one thing after getting back on this vehicle after having not ridden one for a while that stood out to me immediately and actually kind of blew my mind was how incredible 90 horsepower feels in a vehicle that's this small and light. Now I say small and light, this is actually a really big and heavy ATV, but compared to other models that Polaris makes that have this 90 horsepower engine in it, they're all side-by-sides, which are considerably bigger and heavier. And there's one thing that actually makes this motor a little bit more manageable, and that is 3 power modes. So this is a drive-by-wire throttle. It is not a cable throttle. I've said this many times before though, Polaris does a drive-by-wire throttle better than anybody else. But what the drive-by-wire throttle allows you to have is multiple drive modes. So down here we have work, and that really mellows things out. Doesn't accelerate hard, it's not abrupt, it's very smooth. And if you're out riding rocky trails or tight trails, I would actually use work mode. I would put it in that mode because it makes it so much easier to manage. Then you go into standard mode, which gives you full power, but it smoothens out the acceleration curve. So the throttle curve is much more linear than in sport mode, which is the next one, or performance is what Polaris calls it. But standard mode is where I ride this vehicle 99% of the time. If there's one thing I've learned over the years doing what I do, it's that you can have all the power in the world, but if you don't have a chassis and suspension that can handle it and make it livable, then you really don't have anything at all. And that's one place Polaris is legendary for smooth ride and excellent handling on all of their ATVs. And this one certainly is the pinnacle of their ride and handling. It's got sealed arched dual A-arms front and rear. Up front you get 9 inches of travel, out back you get 10.25 inches of travel, and all of it translates into about 12 inches of ground clearance. But what I notice most about this setup is how plush it rides. But when you get into the technical stuff, the articulation of the suspension is amazing. It's really an amazing thing to feel when you're going fast, even when you're going slow, how great Polaris has the suspension tuned. And the truth of the matter is, it really is all about Polaris's tuning, because the shocks are just standard steel-bodied gas shocks with snail cam type preload adjuster. They're nothing special at all, but they've been tuned expertly. And at the back, they actually have what's called rolled IRS. So the IRS, the A-arms are actually sort of on an angle forward. And what that does is change the way that the tires, the wheels, as they move through their travel, they actually move away from the bump. What it does is it slows down the impact of the wheel into the bump and softens out that impact in the rear end. It causes the rear end to bounce or to buck up way less. And it's something Polaris has been doing on their ATVs and side-by-sides for a long time, on their snowmobiles up front for a long time. It works, and it works excellent here. Now, I'm not gonna lie, when I saw these Duro Power Grip tires, the name Power Grip kind of threw me off. It sounded cheap. It sounded kind of like, for a vehicle of this caliber, it should have a better tire. But after using these tires, I am super impressed. They are 27-inch tires. They're not a square pattern, so you've got wider ones on the back than the front. Something to keep in mind if you're going to replace them. They're 14-inch rims, but these tires are unbelievable for grip. They get so much traction, hard dirt, loose dirt. Haven't spent a lot of time in the mud, but the muddy sections I've been in, they got awesome traction in the mud. They clear mud really well. I can't say enough about how much I like it, how good it works. I don't have anything bad to say about it in terms of its performance, ride and handling, comfort, obviously the engine, how all of the features function, and then its utility purposes as well with the storage and the racks. This really is just a really well-built, well-thought-out ATV that excels will go beyond your expectations in pretty much every aspect. So if you're in the market for a new ATV, if you haven't looked at the XP1000 from Polaris, you're really doing yourself a disservice, especially if you're shopping in that big bore category. Check one out, go sit on it. If you can get a chance, go ride one. And before I finish this, start it up and listen to it, because they sound better than any ATV on the market, in my opinion.